We're millennials. Some of us are Gen Z. All of our hobbies must be monetized. And if they aren't monetized, what are we doing with our lives? That's the grind set. Mindset, grind set, all types of kind sets. If we're lucky, it can become the main thing we do. Most of the time it's not going to be though, and the older I get, the more I realize that. So, our topic today, how exhausting is your hobby to turn into a hustle? Really, they say that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Really, if you do what you love, you'll stop loving it and burn out. Before I continue, I should probably say, when I say how exhausting is this hobby to monetize, I do not mean how hard is this hobby to monetize, because they're all hard. I'm talking about how exhausting it is. For example, I think it's harder to make it as an actor than it is to make it as a chef. There are more positions for chefs. Obviously being a head chef can be as big as being an actor, but you get what I'm saying. That being said, being an actor might be more rewarding for some people, whereas being a chef, unless you're super, super dedicated to it, it'll burn you out. Now we have 5 tier lists here. Now the first one at the bottom is the green tier. If you love it, you can handle it, right? If this is the thing you want to do, like they say for people who join the film industry, you have to love it. I agree with that 100%. If this is your thing, if this is your calling, if it's your main hustle or your side hustle, you can handle it. Next up, we have you will lose your passion. This is where the light starts to leave your eyes a little bit. The color starts to fade out of the world. It's just... blech. Middle tier, burnout incoming. Not only will you lose your passion, but you will straight up hit a burnout. And once you hit that burnout, you need to think about what you want to do, because that's the real stuff. That's the real thing you got to think about. Next tier is absolute hell. Why are you trying to monetize this? It's just... And then at the very top is an exercise in insanity. I don't even think there's a way to monetize this, but people try. There are other things in your life that aren't worth the sacrifice for this. I promise you that. All right, how exhausting is this hobby to monetize? Well, let's start with an obvious one. Honestly, I think if you love acting, you'll be able to handle the grind. You obviously have to take a lot of small roles before you can even get a good one. But even then, I think people also don't understand. There's a lot of just cattle calls, extra work, just being in the background, and then you realize extra work kind of sucks and doesn't actually get you anywhere, so you try to just go back to normal auditions. You could be doing 4, 5, 6 auditions a day. You have to balance that with an everyday job. But the thing is, if you understand the grind, I think you can handle it. Because acting typically, it feels like a genuine calling. It's not like some of the other things on this list where you just sort of blech. And a lot of actors sort of know it's not about how big you get, but how good the roles you perform are. Now, other actors may agree with me. As someone who puts himself on camera a lot, I'm only a quarter qualified to say this, but that's just my personal opinion. All right, next up we have art. Here's how you monetize your art. Have rich friends who think you have good taste and think you make good art. That's how you monetize it. Now, how do you get rich friends? Be born rich or grow up in a community that has a lot of rich kids. Now, how do you do that? Have parents who were born there. And how do they do that? They get lucky enough to be born in a good situation. Now, let's say you don't have rich friends. Well, you can always infiltrate yourself into some social circles. Some rich people are nice, but some of them just need to feel woke, so they'll take a good 6-to-1 ratio of rich people to not rich person. So if you can be the token working class person in a rich friend group and you make good art and some of your rich friends have good taste, there you go. You got it. You're really just at the mercy of what someone else thinks is good. And I would argue more so than other forms of art like film or books, because it's just so abstract. Even if you're rich and you make good art, just the amount of networking you'll have to do, the amount of people you'll have to put yourself in front of, all for something so subjective as just straight art. If you make art, make it for yourself. Don't make it for other people. All right, next up we have, this is vlogging. Vlogging, honestly, is an exercise in insanity and pretty much a great way to feel like a husk of your old self. I just don't think it's healthy to make your entire life something on screen. And sure, I think it helps some people. Obviously, if this is your main source of income, you can develop a way to just be like, here's my on-screen persona. Here's my real life. But the thing is, a lot of people who try to do this might not know that. And then there's also the topic of family vloggers, which just isn't even ethical. You shouldn't be marketing your kids for views. Like, if your kid wants to make some content with you, fine. But I think we all know some family vloggers not only burn themselves out, but they burn out their kids. Trust me, there are a lot of Hollywood kids who grow up to be adults who just don't have it together. Also, the fact that if you're a vlogger, you might need to put up an image that you can't afford. Like, you see all these people with all these houses and all these cars and all this stuff. They could always very well just be living above their means, selling their image to you, but in reality, they don't have as much money as they say. All right, next up, we have stand-up comedy. I used to do stand-up, just between deciding whether I wanted to do comedy or whether I wanted to be a filmmaker. I chose being a filmmaker, and I could not do both. The way the stand-up comedy grind works is, let's say you have your day job. Now for your night job. You go to an open mic. You wait 3 hours to go on stage for 3 minutes. The entire audience are other comedians. Probably a bunch of them have heard your jokes before because you're just honing your material. And then you get to do that maybe a second time that night, maybe a third time. You gotta be hitting up open mics at least 6 times a week. And there are comedians who feel like they need to be funny all the time, and they're going to hit the burnout incoming tier. Because what they're going to do is they're going to practice all of their stand-up in front of you in social circles. I think we all have those friends, if you live out in Los Angeles, that are just like, man, you guys ever hear about airline food? And then suddenly, you're like at brunch just trying to chill, and your friend's testing out his airline food bit on you. Like, if you're a comedian who does this, just please practice your comedy at an open mic. Please. You do not need to grate on all of your friends. They want you to succeed. But test out your material in front of strangers, okay? Just please, please. All right, next up we have cooking. You're going to lose your passion if you try to monetize cooking, because there are 2 different routes you can go. Let's say you want to become a professional chef. I mean, just like Anthony Bourdain, God rest his soul, read anything he has to say about cooking. The kitchen atmosphere is incredibly hectic. As someone who's worked in food service, I can tell you that. A lot of the line cooks and the chefs, you know, they can be rough people. Some people can be cool, but other people can be rough. The environment isn't entirely healthy. Restaurant workers are not treated well. You can do all the rounds in the kitchen. You can work at making your own menu, becoming a head chef, doing all that stuff, and great. It can pay off. If you're not that type of person, you'll burn out, or you just won't enjoy cooking anymore. Now, the other route you could take is like a boutique home cook thing. Same thing. It's a lot of like just feeling like you constantly have to produce for people. I don't think it pays a lot of money, to be honest. Anyway, next up we have pop culture criticism. I'm also going to put this in the you will lose your passion for it if you try to make it your thing. I mean, I think we all like our Straw Hat Goofies and our Jay Stoobs and our Film Crit Hulks and our Lindsay Ellises, but that's a lot to handle. You like talking about movies. Do you like talking about movies as a career? Do you have a voice that is strong enough to stand out? There are a lot of white guys with podcasts. I was a white guy with a podcast. It's a saturated market, and that shouldn't bother you, but even then, if you're trying to monetize it, you better have the hottest takes imaginable that are also justifiable, or you gotta be prepared for a grind. Again, you gotta love it, but I think people will burn out on it real quick. Filmmaking. This one, I'm gonna put in burnout incoming, and I feel I am very qualified to speak on this. When I was 17 years old, I realized I wanted to become a director. Specifically a writer-director, because bad writing in movies bothered me more than bad direction. But I also wanted to be a director, because I liked controlling that part of the process. I found a nice little 2-year vocational school. I went there, I did my training. I very much liked the creative aspect. I like collaborating with people. So I moved out to Los Angeles. For the first year, I was in retail hell. For the second year, I managed to get on a lot of film sets. Film sets are exhausting. You are on set for 12 hours a day. If you are at the lowest level, you are constantly running around. If you get at a higher level, you have a lot more responsibility. You are at the mercy of a shoot every time you go on a film set. But you think, oh, okay, this is the experience I need to understand what a film set is like if I want to be a filmmaker. Well, there's also a point where you've gotten enough experience. And honestly, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week, it's just too much. It stops being worth it. I'm sorry, and this is probably a controversial thing to say, but after a while, working as a production assistant, just running around doing all the on-set stuff, it stopped helping me. I was able to become a writer's PA in a writer's room for a week and a half. The idea of getting a lunch order wrong terrified me, but I loved it. For every one job of that there are 300 people trying to get it. So you need to know the right people. They have to like you. And then you just have to get lucky because they probably like you along with 50 other people. Now, let's say you want to make your own projects. I did that. I made a little short. It's called Eli and His Demon. If you're interested, I can send the link on Vimeo or something. I'm very proud of it. It's a little horror short. Burnt myself out lifting for 2 months to make the money for that. And I made about $4,000. Then I took out $4,000 in credit. Now, with the help I got from my collaborators, I was able to make everything. At the end of the shoot, I had $300 left in my bank account. A lot of raw footage and $300. And you know what I have to show for it? It got into one festival. Does that mean it's a bad film? It's not really my place to say. But for every 10 festivals you submit to, you get into one. It is still next to impossible to monetize being a filmmaker. But just for anyone who's struggling, just know the people you see, they're the lucky ones. And I don't say that as a bad thing, but just don't let it get you down. And one day maybe I will hit it big, but just today's not it. So I have the matrix code here, but this is for game design. Take everything I said about how hard it is to be a filmmaker, multiply that by 10. You have being a game designer. Because not only do you need to have good artistic direction, a very large budget, good collaborators, you also need to learn how to code. How the fuck does anybody do that? I mean, like, I know it's probably easy, but just doing that for so long. Like, there's a reason Toby Fox only comes out with one game every 4 years. And if you aren't dedicated to it, you're gonna burn out. And I'm sure all of my, like, aspiring game developers, everyone who's watching me who makes an indie game knows what I'm talking about. If you do, please, tell me your experience. I want to know it. Filmmakers and game designers, we both go through the same problems. It's a lot of who you know, a lot of who has the money, and you just want to make something. But it's just so hard to actually conceive it and bring it to its full extent. But yeah, game design, you will burn out. And that's okay, you know, just take a break sometimes. Gaming. I think you're going to lose your passion if you try to monetize gaming. I only stream the games that I'm trying to genuinely, like, hit the next level at. Because honestly, streaming it helps me. It's still my most popular TikTok video to this day. It's called Yellow Flags and People. You know, a yellow flag is just someone I find really annoying. Like, if they do this, they're probably just, like, really annoying, and I use the word insufferable. In that most popular video, I put gaming YouTubers. Now, I don't like to explain things, but the reason I put gaming YouTubers in there was because I think, oh, you actually think you're going to be able to make money at this. And I'm an idiot, so I believe that. But a lot of people in the comments, a lot of them said, what do you mean? Gaming YouTubers are doing the thing they love and getting paid to do it. And I think a lot of things that those commenters didn't get is that the gaming YouTubers they're talking about are the tippy top. The 1% of gamers who manage to turn their hobby into a career. Everyone else, you're like me. It's your side hustle. You are doing it with hopes that you can do it full time. Honestly, like, it's a very fast way to burn out. So let's say you don't ever make it. Are you still okay being a gaming YouTuber? Do you still like sharing your content with the world? If so, great. Keep doing it. You won't lose your passion. But if you're not okay with that, you're not going to be happy even if you hit that highest level. And I think that's what a lot of people who commented on that video didn't understand. You aren't going to make the money you want doing what you love a lot of the time. I warned y'all I was a yellow flag. I warned y'all. Alpharad, if you're watching this, let me into your club. Let me into your cool kids club. I'll shill for the fam squad for you. I have ideas. I have ideas. Call me. Next up, we have being in a band, being a rapper, being a musician. I'm going to put this in the if you love it, you can handle it also. Again, largely based on who you know, but I think the thing is, I think the fact that both this and acting are in the same spot, I think a lot of it involves just the joy of performance. It's a little easier to like do the grind of trying to get paid for it because you just love playing the music and sharing it with people. Yeah, sure, there are a bunch of SoundCloud rappers who do it for clout. They're not going to be here in 3 years. The rappers who genuinely care about the culture and moving the genre forward, they're the ones that are going to stay. And they might never get famous, but that's okay because you're doing it for yourself. Honestly, I don't know how you guys do it. The music industry is worse than the film industry. Everyone's related. It's all incest. They're all banging each other. Here's one that's kind of a joke, but I'm also going to talk about seriously. OnlyFans. There's a lot of talk about, you know, the work. And honestly, I think it just comes down to if you try to monetize it like that, you're going to forget why you enjoyed it in the first place. Obviously, there are some people who really like doing it and like getting paid for it. The thing is, society should not look down on you for having stuff like that out there, but they do, and it can affect your career down the road. See how it affects everyone else who's in that business. Then see if you still want to do it. Speaking of other ways in which people use their bodies, professional wrestling. I'm going to put this in the absolute hell tier because there is no money in professional wrestling. There is the super tiny indie circuit. There is the WWE. There's like kind of the AEW, and that's it. There's no middle ground. And if you get into the WWE, you work under Vince McMahon, who does not give a shit about you. He will throw you to the side of the road as soon as he determines you do not produce enough value for his company. The hell you will commit on your body. Because yeah, it's fake, but you do shit to yourself when you're a professional wrestler. Like, a lot of these guys don't make it to 70. You deserve to make it to 70. And, you know, none of this is to, like, say don't do it, but you need to understand what you're up against. And you need to understand that if you don't make it, that's okay. It matters that you love doing it. Next up, sports. If you're the type of person who likes sports, I think you can handle this. Like, they figure you out in middle school, and then they prepare you until then. TikTok. I don't know how to monetize this shit. TikTok is a bridge to other ways to monetize things. YouTube, Instagram, Twitch. TikTok itself is not the thing you want to use to monetize things. If you try to be famous only on TikTok, here's what you got to do. Become one of those dumb food waste TikTokers. That's one way. And, you know, just do thirst traps. You can milk that for about 7 years also. So you can make some good money. Or just, I don't know, do whatever the algorithm wants. And no one knows what the algorithm wants. This is a fucking stupid algorithm. I have no idea what it wants. Ever. I've thought of doing skits about it, but the skits take too long and the algorithm wouldn't even care. So, yeah. Just make the content. Focus on making good content. That's what you should be doing for anyone who's trying to make it on TikTok. But don't take my word for it. I'm not that smart. All right. Next up is Twitter. Monetizing Twitter is an exercise in insanity, 100%. There is one person I know who can monetize Twitter. That is Drill. And even then, they have to just sell other shit. But other people want to be like professional tweeters. And if you're not Jabuki Young White, you probably aren't going to hit that level of notoriety. And even if you are, you're just going to use it to take an actual job. Why are you trying to make money through Twitter? It's literally the worst site on the face of the planet. Next up, we have woodworking and crafting. Honestly, crafting has a lot of practical purposes. So I think if you genuinely have a passion for it, I think you can handle monetizing it. You could even find like a nice healthy challenge in it. It has a lot of like practical uses in construction and I don't know, all that stuff. Honestly, pretty simple. Nothing too crazy, nothing too bad to deal with. Now, writing. Honestly, I'm going to say as a writer, yeah, you can burn yourself out on it if you're trying to like hard monetize yourself. Because either one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to be like me and really care about the work you put out, so not put it out as frequently, so you won't get as much money from it, or you're going to be like, say, James Patterson and just churn stuff out, stuff you don't necessarily feel the most passion towards, and not really care whether it's good or not. Sure, you'll be making money, but you'll even just burn out on writing itself, so you got to be careful about that. I have a fantasy blog that I write, and that takes me months to put up one story because I like to take my time. That's not financially viable. Unless I got a billion people reading the story each time, but I don't. I have like 5. And then finally we have YouTube. You'll lose your passion for YouTube if you're not careful with it. Again, it's like the same thing with writing. You could either try to focus on the content and hope that your more thought out videos get more views and get you more respected, or you could just do clickbait. But producing like easy clickbait is a lot more exhausting than people think. And also YouTube is just such a weird space. I don't get it. I don't get it, and yet this video is on YouTube. Either way, like, that's how we're ending this. This is a more serious video, but I want to talk about this because I feel like it's important. Maybe one day I'll be able to actually make a living doing this, and I'll need to be aware of the challenges that comes with it. So I know this one isn't for everybody, but if you stuck around, I appreciate you. And we're gonna make some more gaming content now.